everybody for sparing your time and being here with us. Before we move into the panel discussion, I would just like to share a few thoughts on what are we trying to do and what is this gathering all about. First of all, a few words about our organization, which is ICC Change. There are two very important words in the name: catalytic and change. So fundamentally, what we want to do is we want to put in all our efforts in bringing organizations that are very serious about driving change in the industry. We understand that there are lots of organizations, well-meaning organizations, who have their own programs, who have their own agenda and things like that. But what we thought we should be doing is bringing all these organizations together, such organizations together, so we can actually achieve much more in little time as compared to what has been done all these years. As Kesar sir rightly pointed out, time is running out in the sense that there is a lot of pressure on all of us in this world, all the 7.4 billion people in the world, to wake up and do something about it. So the interesting thing is, as in the yoga and the meditative practices, we say waking stage is different, but the real stage is when we are actually doing something within. So that's exactly what we are out to do with the ICC Change. So ICC Change, what we are fundamentally doing is we are identifying organizations that are actually implementing things on the ground. Of course, we will be consulting research organizations and other organizations which are studying things from the outside. But we want to create a very strong proposition in bringing together people who are doing things on the ground. Because we are all people who spend time within factories, within organizations, within the communities, if I may say so. We really love to go there and work on the soil, if I may say so. So fundamentally, today's event is a very beautiful launch, which is actually going to be a very continual journey where ICC Change will be bringing in such organizations, and we want to work with all of us here in this room and those online and those not with us in this conference as well. And we want to come out with a series of actionable items, not just seminars and discourses, but we want to come out with very actionable items which will actually drive change in the society that we live in and we work in. So needless to say, all of our efforts are required. We all need to work together. There's nothing that can be done in isolation. So we all need to get into action mode, and that's exactly what ICC Change is attempting to do. And I'm very, very confident that with all of us working together, we should be driving fantastic change. Without much ado, I would like to invite a very beautiful and a very powerful panel, all friends of mine. I've been knowing all these panelists for so many years. The beautiful thing is that many of us on this panel today, we've been friends, or we know each other since probably 2 decades. For the last 10 years or so, we've not been actually interacting. But the only place where we get updates is on LinkedIn. But today is a great opportunity for all of us to actually get onto the dais and share a few thoughts on what we are actually doing individually on this journey. And the last word about why we chose, in fact, the acronym for today's event is SEW, which talks about skills, ESG, and women. All 3 important areas and all 3 focal areas where we are going to be definitely doing a lot of work. Without much ado, can I invite my dear friend Chandrima ji to be on the dais, please? Vijay Mathur ji, please. Hello, Katana. Mr. Preet, PM Pro. Mr. Gupta. As you can see, there's a lot of wisdom, and I'm surrounded by a lot of intent, strong intent to drive change. In fact, we spent a lot of time trying to identify who we should be discussing with and learning from today. A quick one-line introduction, although these eminent people do not need any introduction because I'm sure we all know they're all playing a very important role in the industry, but it's my duty to just give you a one-line introduction about who they are. Ms. Chandrima Chatterjee ji, she's the Secretary General of CITI, and she's doing a lot of work. I mean, I'm sure many of you are actually following her on LinkedIn. There's a lot of activity happening in the city. Then our dear Vijay Mathurji, he's the Director General of ATDC. And then we have Alok Ranaji, he's the Regional Director of ETI, the Ethical Trading Initiative. And then we have Mr. Parampreet, who's the Vice President of PM Pro, a manufacturer. And our dear friend Amit Gupta, he's the Director of an organization called Catalyst. And now you know why they are here, Catalyst. They're all working together. So this is going to be a very slightly different panel discussion, wherein what we thought we should be doing is, rather than open up for a very generic discussion, we thought we will ask them pointed questions on A, what they're doing today, B, what do they bring to the table to this consortium that we're all trying to build. So it's going to be very pointed, and I'm sure that there is going to be a lot of learning for all of us from this discussion. To begin with, my first question, the routine is going to be like this. Each of the panelists is going to have 2 questions to answer. The first round, there will be a question. They'll have 3 minutes to share their thoughts, and then the microphone goes around. And then the second round, each of these panelists will again have 3 questions, and that will be the action question. So let me first begin with Chandrima ji. It's a very loaded question, Chandrima ji. And as always, we know you will be very frank and you will just hit the nail on the head. Are MSMEs ready for ESG? And from the vision document that Citi has come out with, there is a very beautiful phrase which has been plucked from our Honorable Prime Minister's speech: zero effect and zero defect. So do you think MSMEs can actually achieve it? I'm sure, I mean, being eternally optimistic, we can. But what is it that we need to do to get them there? These are the 2 questions for you.
Thank you, Sridhar. And it's really nice to again connect with many here in the panel. And we all have, I think, a history with us of how we have tried our best to do capacity building of the MSMEs in the textile space. Because I think it is most relevant, because we are talking of a sector which is, like many other sectors, primarily driven by the MSMEs. But I think we are at a certain stage when these questions really matter, because whatever is happening in the world has very serious impact on them, both positive and negative. And I think India is uniquely placed today to discuss this, because for us, the challenges are great. In fact, my organization, the Confederation of Indian Textile Industry, works not just with the MSMEs, they're also working with small farmers. And nowadays, whenever I talk about the challenges, I talk about challenges in both ends, because be it the small farmers who are the backbone of the cotton sector, or the MSMEs who are the backbone of the subsequent manufacturing sector, I think the challenges for us are very important, very critical and unique, because I think India, though it's in a way the largest producer and the largest consumer of textiles, but many of the developments we are so far very reactive to, and we are trying to find solutions to them as and when it is coming. And most in the bottom of the pyramid is the MSMEs, to whom there are institutions needed, there are platforms needed to percolate the requirements, the awareness, the capacities. So to that extent, are they ready? I think organizations like those sitting here and institutions beyond this also, there are several of them, all are working towards that. Actually, the good thing is that if you're talking of the increasing awareness of circular production systems and products, as also sustainability in the value chain, we were actually the best prepared at one point of time, be it being cotton centric, which is supposed to be gold when it comes to circular economies, to the inclusivity in the value chain, But maybe if you look at the last few years, in fact, we have in many ways regressed because of the changes that happened. First, being that cotton centricness it has been going for various reasons, be it the supply side challenges that is, the cotton value chain has been facing, be it the demand side pull because the world was majorly in MMF. And of course, there's more growth potential in MMF. We have moved there. But as we see challenges like the upcoming fiber norms, we understand there's a 2 fiber policy coming, which basically policies which will make circularity easier are coming, which may be more difficult for cotton centric value chains. Value chains which are getting into multiple blends. In fact, India takes pride in being a multiple blend country. In fact, we take pride in having a lot of diversity in our textile value chain, being one of the only countries who have a presence across all the fibers. And how, in fact, we are the leaders in most of the fibers that are the base of the textile value chain. So the preparedness is a challenge, mainly because a lot of this focus today is going on a very technology-driven reporting structures. In fact, we were, as an Indian textile industry, we were very prepared, very adept with the social requirements, because in the last 2 decades, the industry has had a lot of awareness and preparedness for that. But I think the sudden focus on more environmental driven requirements from the major markets that Indian textile industry supplies to, and the heavy use of technology in most of them, I think is becoming a huge challenge. There is a capacity gap, there is a technology gap. In fact, now the major discussion is that should the requirement for the buzzwords today, like traceability, which has huge impacts for the cotton value chain, starting from the cotton farmer, and sustainability, should it be at the cost of the livelihoods of the marginal farmers, the small manufacturers? So that's another discussion. I think there's a role that Indian policy dialogues have to play in this, be it in the FTAs that we are now initiating and anywhere else, because there is an issue in the level playing here. And that's largely because of the MSMEs and how they're placed. So if we are talking of traceability, the kind of requirement, the kind of technologies, it's immediately disbalancement that is coming vis-a-vis countries like USA or Brazil. I'm talking in terms of cotton-centric economies, simply because of the value chain nature that we have. So it's good that this kind of recognition is coming, that there has to be a balance between ensuring livelihoods of these value chain partners, along with the requirement of sustainability and traceability, which is surely required. Coming to zero defect, I think the discussion on quality nowadays at times are getting backstep, because there's so much of focus. A poor MSME, where will they focus on? You have this huge E, the S, and the G. The G, of course, has a lot of bearing on your quality also. It depends on how you're having your management systems and processes in place that will surely entail that you are into this. The good thing is that there is a lot of policy level thinking going on. In fact, I'm just coming out of an ESG task force that the Ministry of Textile has formed. Today was its 3rd meeting, and I think in each meeting we realized there is a lot of work happening, but there is either no synergy or no single repository of that for people to dig into that and avail of that. So that was the one thing that was tangibly agreed today, that there will be one institution which will be able to house and be repository to all that is happening around and give it to places where the major gaps are. So these kind of initiatives, and at the government level, a lot of synergies between the various departments where the textile impacts, be it the agricultural sector, be it the Department of Chemicals and Petrochemicals. So textile, actually, the value chain that we sit in here has various interdepartmental linkages. The good thing is that the synergies in all these are being worked on. and surely that will have a positive impact. So to that extent, if you're prepared, not yet, but in terms of initiatives, some very meaningful, hopefully impactful initiatives are on the table today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chandrimaji. I think one very important thing which you highlighted here is the scope. When we say MSME, it is not just about the factories within the industrial sector, but also the cotton growers. It's a very important, and that's a point that I have noted down, and I couldn't do a bold and highlight or underline, but that's very important. Thank you so much, Chandrimaji. Roshanji, you should sit. How long will you stand? Till the carbon levels come down? Please take a seat. Thanks. Yes, I think I will give you that responsibility, please. Thank you for the nation. Great. Sure. Moving on, the next question is for my dear friend Alok, and very relevant to what he actually does in the ETI. The question for you, Alok, is can multi-stakeholder initiatives be a catalyst for MSMEs to practice ESG and process enhancement, or is it an individual journey? The reason why we put this question down is because many times factories want to do things themselves, but there is also an opportunity for a cluster of factories to do something together, right? So this question is very specific to ETI because they do a lot of engagement with brands and larger groups. And Alok, you have 3 minutes to answer this question.
Thanks, Sridhar.
See, women empowerment. I didn't see that to Chandrimaji. Yeah, I know. Over to you, Alok.
Yeah, I could go on and on this topic, but just to highlight to some of the people in the audience, multi-stakeholder initiative like ETI, we are a membership organization where we have more than 100 global companies that are members. But apart from companies, we also have membership of international NGOs, all big NGOs and international trade unions. So it is a multi-stakeholder, membership organization that I am representing. It's called Ethical Trading Initiative. It's based out of UK. In terms of this question about MSMEs, I would again, say the same thing which Chandrima highlighted, that when we are talking about MSMEs, we are not only looking at tier 1 factories. We are looking at the entire supply chain as such. And especially if you look at many of agriculture or food, garments, now the supply chain extends, into multiple tiers. Now there would be smaller units which would just be, working on job work, but they are also part of a small enterprise. And that's where, we have to look at, what are the nature or what kind of organizations are clubbed under MSMEs when we are talking about supply chain, a particular supply chain as such. Now, the challenge is the moment, the work goes beyond tier 1, there is a lot of opacity. And how do we manage transparency and, ensure that things actually percolate whatever, changes that have been, done at tier 1 level. Also, that percolation impact happens at that level. Now, the challenge with MSMEs are that, one is they are constrained in terms of financial resources, but then they are also constrained in terms of human resources to look at, topics like ESG. For ETI, we look at S and G, which is social and governance. And that's where, our whole work is focused around. Now, one of the ways of doing it is, again, working in collaboration with companies, business associations, cluster level associations, and individual units, wherein a lot of know-how which is lacking can actually be taken to them. And this is where, organizations like ETI can play a critical role by bringing in discussions which are happening at global level and making those, available at clusters, even deep down like Tirupur cluster or any cluster for that matter. So somewhere we do see a value of bringing different stakeholders together, and that's one task which ETI is doing. We feel that any discussion about supply chain should not be happening in Europe or US. It should be taken up at this level. It should be driven by people here, and that's where we need to bring together people from MSMEs to actually talk about their challenges. And this is where we are doing a project in partnership with a consortium which is called a Stitch program, under which we have partnered with Better Buying, wherein we are giving voice to suppliers, wherein suppliers are taking up surveys by which they are rating their buyers and buying behaviors. Similarly, we are trying to create these ethical trade platforms in multiple clusters, which would have different, including the international brands, but also manufacturers and some of the other relevant key stakeholders like business association, government. Recently, last month, there was a launch of Tirupur Stakeholder Forum, wherein UN Women, IOM, they also have, accepted to be part of that discussion. So what we feel that we need to bring every stakeholder, all the players together rather than working individually at the unit level, which it's not going to be much.
Thanks, Alok. I think you did well. 3 minutes. Fantastic. I think a few important things that you highlighted here is that the discussion and the action should be on the ground, not elsewhere, not at 20,000 feet, which is something which I completely agree with you, because the narrative has to be defined right here, and the solution for that also has to be driven down here. It's great to know about all the programs that ETI is running, and I'm sure that there will be lots of opportunities for all of us to be part of that journey and create more, I should say, headway into driving change. Thank you so much, Alok. Moving on, I have the next question for my dear friend, Vijay Mathurji. I'm sure all of us here know ATDC is playing such an important role in developing skills at all levels. And they have been silently working with so many organizations, and also they have been receiving lots of funds. They're the lightest. Why I'm saying that is because obviously that's because they are driving change. They are making that dent in the area of skill development. So that's why people are actually getting interested with them. So the question to you is, as a skill development specialist organization, what is your take on skill gap in MSMEs, especially for future needs like being prepared for ESG and SDG? I think I'll just move the slide for you.
Thank you, Sridharji. I think the skill gap analysis is something which, Asimji, can I have my slide 1? Yeah. Every exporter, Asim knows I have, okay. Every factory person, I mean, they have been to seminars, webinars on ESG, but their ultimate question is how to do this. क्या करें, कैसे करें भाई? So the first job was to find out what are the skill gaps in a garment factory. And I confine myself to a garment factory where there are 2 gates. One gate gets the material in, and there is another gate where the finished garments go out. So within this periphery, what are the skill gaps? So I have divided the gaps into 8 parts, basically. There may be many, but broadly there are 8 skill gaps. You can see on the slide, and I am taking one by one within the stipulated time. The first gap, I would say, is in the management governance. So as a head of the organization, as an owner-driven company or as a director of the company, must have governance. They must make bylaws. And not only there is a skill gap, there is a knowledge gap also here in the management. So for example, 9 more items have been added to banned list by ECHA, by European Chemical Agency. Now, nobody will know. So the governance structure must know what is happening in the world, particularly in the ESG section, and provide that information. So they must also have a minute book. They should also write scorecards. put the targets and the actual, what the target they could have if they are working for a brand like, for example, H&M, they say that by 2025, they will only be working with regenerated viscose. So now in your factory, are you doing viscose? Yes. How much regenerated? 5%. By 2025, H&M will not place the order unless you are 100%. So your target is 95%. So that's the work of the governance. So coming to the second gap, and I have put star marking. Star marking means that there's a substantial gap. Management doesn't know this, isn't it? So 4 star means that there's a substantial gap. Then coming to the next gap, number 2, is a person which we normally say sustainability officer. Now in apparel factory, normally a sustainable officer is no one other than a person from HR. अरे तुम ये भी देख लेना sustainability वाला inspection. So he is given the additional responsibility. He is very clever. He can manage all those things, but that is a person, there's a huge gap. Nobody in the factory says that I look after sustainability. I don't know about HR, but I know sustainability. So there's a huge gap, especially 4 star. There's a huge gap. I mean, I was surprised, that in today's seminar, there should have been 50 sustainability officers to come. And maybe some owners should have come. Okay. So coming to gap number 3 is very important, very, very important. At the gate, the security guard. Now, why security guard should be a sustainable officer? Because when we have material in, for example, a chemical in, and he is informed by the governance that these are the banned items, he should look at the packing slip and say, no, not allowed to enter my factory. He is the first person. Otherwise, when the goods go in, it will be very difficult. Second thing is the blend of the fabric. If somebody has to keep MMF separately, the security guard must say that no composition of fabric available on the invoice on the packing slip. So unless this is a clear demarcation, what the material is, so the first sustainability starts at the gate at the security guard level. So there is a skill gap. Security guard normally will frisk you, will understand who is my person, who is their person, but may not be knowing. So this skill gap needs to be addressed. Now the next skill gap is at the store level where the goods go. Now all those factories who are sustainable, they are keeping bins as green, orange, recycle, return, query bins. Now this kind of qualification pack is not available for the store manager. So he must be taught that he must keep those bins and keep all 4 kinds of products so that he can give the right product to the next line. Next, gap 5 is a cutting room, cutting supervisor. Again, bins for segregation. So where to put cotton, where to put 100% cotton, where to put blend, where to put all those things which are not repairable to keep them separately. So there's a skill gap. Now coming to the production floor. Now production floor, there are 2 people who are very important. One is the operator and one the line supervisor. And if we at ATDC had an occasion to visit a couple of factories who are sustainable in India and in Indonesia and in Cambodia, and we found that there are waste collection bins, there are air circulation which avoids personal fatigue delay, so social aspect is also covered, and then motors and lights, again environmental issues are covered. So some skill sets are required, and I would say they are also very, very significantly required 4 star. And gap 7 is in the finishing department where finishing supervisor and finisher. So how to have steam recovery in the boiler, then effluent treatment plant, recycle of water, reuse, process which can use less water, and water analysis and store and good work. These are some of the jobs which are required at the finishing level. And last but not the least is the packer, which is eco-friendly packaging material. So if we look at it, I have also written down the NSQF level. Now, NSQF levels 9 and 10 means a highly skilled person. NSQF level 10 means a PhD into a subject. So if you look at it, you know that all kinds of people, even who are having NSQL level 3, 5, 4, 7, all kinds of people are required to be trained into sustainability. So just to answer Sridharji, what are the gaps in a garment factory? Broadly, there are 8 gaps which I have highlighted. And if they are looked into, a factory will be in a position to be one step rather than appointing only a sustainable officer. They need to drive down which are the areas. These are the broad areas they should look at it, and I'm sure they will be a better person once they copy this and do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijayji. I think a very important takeaway here is that it's not the responsibility of the environment or the compliance officer to be aligned with ESG goals. Right from the security guard up to the boardroom, everybody has a role to play, and a very significant role to play. It's not just about knowledge, but Mathurji very beautifully touched upon the combination of knowledge plus skills. And of course, the third and the most important element is whether they're actually empowered to bring about the change. So thank you so much, Mathurji, it's amazing working with Mathurji. I really enjoy my conversations with him. Moving on, the next question is from a manufacturer's perspective, because more often than not, I've seen dialogues happening around the world wherein the most important person at the epicenter of everything is missing. But we want to make sure that manufacturers' voices are also heard very well, and they're going to play a very important role in allowing us to bring about the changes in their companies. So, Paramji, this question is specific to you as a manufacturer. And does alignment with ESG, SDG, etc., these kinds of global needs, international needs, affect your competitiveness in global markets? The reason why we chose this question is because there are many organizations who, the moment you start talking about manufacturers especially, when you start talking about ESG and those, so it will add to my bottom line. But the question is, does it actually affect the bottom line, or are there ways of converting this into an advantage? So, Paramji, we would like to learn from you whether trying to be in alignment with all these programs, does it affect your competitiveness?
Thank you, Mr. Shedar, and thank you for help. Look, we have been practicing ESG or SDG goals in a different form, like CSR or I will say health and safety or women empowerment. But if you ask about ESG, I think it's a holistic framework where you can measure which organization is running or operating in a sustainable manner or not. And all those initiatives, it should be driven by data, and wherever you can measure, you can improve. So I think it's a different framework, but just came in limelight last few years. And when we were looking at ourselves, we felt like we are short of some goals, and we need to work and look inside the organization. How can we really work on those? I was sharing with you that Inditex, Zara Group, which is one of the biggest in fashion industry, recently signed an agreement with the International Apparel Federation. Both of their session actually represent almost 1 lakh manufacturers from 40 countries, which is a big pool. They signed to really drive a significant transformation in the industry, global apparel industry, I would say, where they're trying to drive the best practices in sustainable manufacturing as well as new technology. The 3 key priorities for them are how can, as an industry, we can turn waste into new raw material, moving towards net zero emission and promoting sustainable energy manufacturing, and improving working condition in factories, fair wages, and health and safety issues in the factories. So as a PM Pro, we consciously moved towards our own goals because we felt it is beyond compliance. We have to set our own ESG goals, and we need to be ahead of curve to really be competitive when customers start demanding and measuring us on these parameters where we do stand. So, and a lot of companies, I will say, even in India and outside India, have set their own goals. They have their own targets by 2030. They want to reach over there. So, on different sustainable goals, we want to progress on certain areas to be ahead of curve on that level. Like women empowerment, I think we give 10 years back, our participation of women in our own organization was only 15 to 20%. Today, we have reached almost 65%, and which is one of the goals of gender equality. Now we move to the next level. How can we promote women supervisor and mid-level management roles? Normally, women are involved in merchandising or certain areas, but not to that level. The participation is very low. So we are trying to encourage them to bring it on this level. As Mahmood said about the factories, like reduction of water wastage is what the usage we are doing in the factory. Since we realize how much water we are consuming, just measuring it, we have cut down that water consumption by at least 35-40%. And our goal is to bring down to 30% of starting point when we start measuring it. So just a consciousness, I think it has made us so much of a difference. So I believe, like, whatever you want to measure, what do you want to actually measure and what do you want to report? So if you are only doing for the customer, I think that's not a great strategy. I think you need to consciously move this side, because reversing carbon emission is going to be very expensive in the coming years. And today we have a chance to, at least, if we cannot reverse it, at least we can slow down that with the technology available, the best practices available today. So thank you.
Thanks, Paramji. So reading between the lines, it's very obvious that the message is very clear that adhering to all these systems and practices is definitely going to make them more competitive. There's no question about it's affecting the bottom line and so on and so forth, because Paramji shared so many examples, saving so much of bringing down water consumption by 40%, so much money they're actually saving. So the bottom line from Paramji's statement is that it is not going to affect competitiveness when we try to be aligned with SDG and ESG goals. Thank you so much, Paramji, for your inputs. Next, moving on to Amit. Amit, we all work in the same fraternity. We actually work with organizations to make them more competitive and sustainable. So this question, Amit, is from the hat that you wear as an organization that helps its customers to become more sustainable and so on. So what are the trends in ESG implementation in the area of MSME? And it will be nice if you could actually give us a broad picture of how is the MSME juggernaut moving? Is it going to accept it? Is it going to decline it? So we would love to hear that from you, Amit, in 3 minutes.
That's a rider. Thank you, Sridhar. Very good afternoon to everybody present here on the panel as well as the audience. So I think Kesarji mentioned a very important thing with respect to MSMEs, fear and desire. I think I'll start off with it. True to our name, I belong to Catalyst Group, so I'm catalyzing what everybody is putting. Right? It's sometimes, but not the least. So the attempt is to reduce the fear and improve the desire. That's very, very clear, right? With everybody, all stakeholders, and especially MSMEs. And all of us know the big figures, 60+ million MSMEs, 40% export, 30% GDP, 110 million employees. So ESG, everything is covered, right? At a macro level. To talk about Catalyst journey, we've been working with a very, very large number of MSMEs for the last 3 to 4 years as part of a skill development program, let's put it that way, right? We worked in the Walmart Riddhi program, which is a Walmart Foundation program. Prior to that, we worked in Women in Business with Walmart Foundation. And this is obviously we are attempting to target 50,000 MSMEs in the next 2-3 years. We've already come up to 35,000 odd. We started with plain skill development. When I say plain skill development in the context of today's topic, plain skill development. The norm, resource efficiency, operations, production, marketing, etc. As we went ahead, we realized that the world is changing. The ATDC of the world, Chandrima talked about, the ESG committee. There's pressure from, buyers of these 40% exports that are happening from India. And, everybody's hearing CSRD, ESRS, TCFD, whatever, right? All of this. And how do we demystify them and start helping them? And therefore, that journey has started. The fear to desire bridge is what Catalyst Group is trying to create, right? With the help of stakeholders here on this table, with Sridhar and everybody else, enabling and orchestrating the whole thing, right? So today, I would say it's not just growth enablers, but it's survival. Let me put it very plain and bluntly, because you have a window of 2.5, 3 years, up to 26 to meet the corporate sustainability directives. If I am as an MSP is not worried about it, my buyer will make me worried about it. He'll give me, he won't let me sleep, because otherwise he'll shift to some other supplier in Thailand or Bangladesh. And we're not talking on financial metric. We're not talking because the rupee is depreciating less than the Bangladesh taka. Not because of that, but because of non-financial metrics like ESG, environmental, social, which will have an impact on his financial metrics. So I think the writing on the wall is very, very, very clear for MSMEs, right? Of course, the sectors, as you said, the juggernaut, the sectors may be differential. Textiles, apparel, home textiles, the Panipats may be ahead, the Ludhianas may be slightly behind, the Tiruputs may be ahead. Thanks to Alok here, he's working a lot more there, right? And all other stakeholders. There are certain, almost $40 billion of exports to EU is affected because of these directives, right? And I think those export sectors in engineering, textiles, iron and steel, chemicals, food, deforestation law. And that reminds me what Chandrima said. By the way, Catalyst works in both livelihoods as well as sustainability. So we try to balance out livelihoods with sustainability, right? Just making that point, because we had not-for-profits working with farmers and FPOs and agriculture, as well as we working in CSR sustainability and ESG space. So I would say things are moving fast. Just to sum up your question, a direct answer. Yes, there are bottlenecks, there are hurdles, but that's what Catalyst does, right? Try and remove the hurdle, try and remove the bottlenecks. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. I think the takeaway is that it's a matter of survival, in the sense that unless we all in this room and outside take responsibility and support the MSME, then I think indirectly or probably directly we will be responsible for the downfall of MSMEs, which is not at all a good thing for our nation. So that's a clarion call, which Amit has shared with us just now, and which makes it even more imperative for all of us to look at what we can all do together. Thanks, Amit. Moving on, the next round is, I would say, more, I wouldn't call it the rapid fire round, but it's going to be more specific to what each of the panelists is going to offer to this consortium that we are all talking about. So, Chandrima ji, what is, if I may read out the question, I had actually written it down as 2 projects or programs by city. I leave it to you to decide. 2 projects or programs by city to support the industry to achieve ESG. So something specific and targeted which we know is available to us. We just need to go pluck it and start working. What would that be?
To achieve something, there's a beginning. The beginning for us has been that we have initiated an ESG series. Every month we are trying to bring in some expert to talk about one of the aspects of the what, the how, and whys. Some people who are doing that, because I think there's an important need for a peer group discussion also, especially for the front runners as to what they've been doing, why they have been doing, and most importantly, the business case, the opportunities that have opened up for them, but also what are their constraints, because as institutions like us, we need to look into that and see if there's any policy solution or any other support solutions that we can provide. As also some enablers, as I was telling, most of this is so tech driven, so consultant driven also in many cases, handholders are needed. So we are trying to bring this ecosystem together for various segments. We are trying to have nuanced discussions around each vertical, because all of them have their different requirements, and thus creating certain understanding along with, of course, the awareness that we are giving as to what is already available in this ecosystem and what more needs to be brought. So maybe that is something that we can pass on and also take from you wherever the gaps, there are some soft or hard resources is available.
Thank you so much, Chandramani. I think that's the lowest hanging fruit, and I think we are on board with you on that.
Sridharji, we are actually on, we are
Sure.
on time.
We will 1 minute each, right? Fantastic. So, Alok, the next question is very important, because now he is going to play the role of a brand ambassador to all of us in India. ETI, that is. What will ETI's message to brands and retailers be about MSME readiness to adopt full-scale ESG? Very important question.
I think, this has been a policy for us that we have always encouraged our members to work with factories. Even if there are issues, we never expect them to cut and run. And that's the last thing that we would expect. So we want companies to work with their factories. Second is, there is a whole gap in terms of awareness. If you look at micro and small enterprises, many times they would ask questions that why this yellow line or why the secondary exit. So somewhere, and now this whole due diligence law is coming, and everyone is really, wondering what exactly it is and how it is going to, help or, mean to us. So we would like companies, and then as ETI, we would support our members to work with these smaller and micro level or medium enterprises in building their capacities, their level of understanding. And then it always helps when you have a stable partnership. So one of the key demands would be to work with your suppliers over a period of time so that they better understand the requirements and then they are able to deliver on what is expected of.
Sure. So if I may paraphrase what you said, so your ETI's role will be to provide a lot of hope to the stakeholders about the changes that are taking place, and it's going to be a bright future. We need to live up to that. Thank you so much, Alok. Mathurji, your question. How can ATDC support MSMEs on ESG in processes?
Okay, so in 60 seconds, can I have same thing my slide too? Just so ATDC can offer in-factory programs. I have 3 in-factory programs. So I have around 40 master trainers who can. No, the another one, please. This one. So we have first program. I think for anyone to take on ESG program, it's to detox the people. They are obsessed with, ये तो नहीं हो पाएगा, ये कैसे होगा, ये हमारा काम नहीं. So detox the people. We have a pleasure of doing 30,000 trainings into personal advancements and career enhancement. This is a program of the brand The Gap. We have already concluded more than 30,000 in apparel industry. It is a 42-hour program which we do as per the convenience of the practice. So maybe 2 hours a day they can spare their workers, and we take on a batch of 30, 35, and they become beautiful people after the function. They are de-stressed, they can take financial decisions, they hear better, they communicate better. So this is how this program is. Then this takes care of the social aspect into ESG. The second program is creating a better society. We are already signed up with Ralph Lauren and Marks and Spencer. We are taking into 12 factories identified by them. If one of the factories desire to have similar program where we take on the governance issues that we can do for them. And the third in-campus program is the governance, where we can also help with writing your bylaws. What should be the constitution of the committee? What should be the women outreach program? How you should set your targets and how you should record. This is all we can do in campus program. And then we are coming out with in the July 24th session a complete program which is in campus, where we'll be taking on people from the industry, from the freshers, to prepare them completely, as I shown in my first slide, from gate to gate. So they would be the person who will be responsible for taking on. So ATTC can help out all these things. They are definitely at a cost.
Sure. Thanks, Mataji. Paramji, this question is very important. We need if there is a one phrase wish list as a manufacturer, what kind of support would you expect from stakeholders? Just one phrase.
It can't be one phrase. You have to understand who are the stakeholders. You have to identify that. Stakeholders are your own company, people working in the organization, your supply chain, your customer brands, and the government. So all four of us are stakeholders. So what we expect from our customers is we have to set our own short-term and long-term goals with them. How can the brands can help us, and our supply chain can help us to share the best practices in different regions to educate manufacturer, handhold us to reach those goals, walk on the same path, and probably not just doing an auditing and a fear factor. I think it just need that support of progress. I think the process improvement wherever it is required. Second, from your own people, it's a mindset. I think it's a different. They have to imbibe the cultural shift to get into this on this path. From government, I think these kind of forums, information, as well as giving incentive, maybe a tax break somewhere to be for the companies who are progressing towards ESG goals. And I think it's all this collectively is something like a payback and to each other, and we can pay back to the society as well as environment.
Sure. Thanks, Paramji. I will not, in the interest of time, I will not paraphrase what Paramji shared. Amit, a very important and relevant question. What should be an advisory company's approach and sentiment be towards helping MSMEs to achieve these goals? In 1 minute.
60 seconds. Okay, time starts now. As catalysts, we are vertical agnostic, and therefore we want to sew it together. So you start SEW, skills, ESG, and women. Right? What do we sew together? We start with risk and opportunity assessment, with relevant contextual risk and opportunity assessment, do the materiality, double materiality assessment, right? Look at audits and certifications in terms of energy, water, waste, right? Look at the baseline EDDC talked about. And then look very, very, very importantly at the net zero journey that we want to handhold, facilitate you to whatever date it is, whether it's 2030, 2040, in line with 2070 goal, the Indian government, right? So that's our offering across verticals of MSMEs. And, to catalyze, obviously, you need to sew all this together. And that's what we are, our main sentiment and offering.
Sure.
Thank
What-
you.
The bottom line from what Amit said is very simple. Have a very strong succession plan. Because if you're gone, then somebody else should run with the baton. So, in the interest of time, first of all, I'm very apologetic about the fact that we've overrun on time. That's what happens when you have a very powerful panel. There's so much to share and so on. So let me just sum up this beautiful conversation. First of all, a very heartfelt thanks to all the panelists for being here with us today and for giving us the direction and guidance and the support, the assured support that we all need to work together and we can. And there has been some very razor sharp insights that many of us, all of us shared here today. The bottom line is very simple. As I mentioned earlier on, the chariot has started moving in the sense that ICC Change is definitely going to bring all like-minded organizations together, and we are all definitely going to work with each of us to make a big change in the society. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here with us, panelists. And
can I add something? I think having another representation over here from the brand, then I think we have completed the whole stakeholder perspective, because we need to ask the brand, because all this ESG goals and sustainable development goals, what we discussed from a manufacturer point of view and stakeholders, we need to ask them what are they doing to take a responsibility of the end product. Because 90% of the product that we sell, they sell to the customers, they end up in landfills. And that's going back to the atmosphere. You are again adding those chemicals and carbon dioxide back to the earth. So what are they doing on that, and where is their responsibility stand? Because we only see this side of the life cycle. It is equally important to see that the end, so end cycle of that product. What are we doing over there? Maybe a circular economy, what they're talking about, but what is the progress on that and what?
Sure. The point well taken, Paramji. So what we will do is when for this first meeting, of course, probably we just